So I lead the North America Alliance office, as today said. Borealis is relatively new to Houston, so I thought it'd be useful to bring in a couple of slides explaining what Borealis is and what we do. So Borealis is primarily a European company. We have a strong base in Europe, a manufacturing base in Europe. You can see from our ownership structure that we're linked back to oil and gas. So our majority shareholder is OMV, which is the Austrian oil and gas company. And we also just recently had another shareholder come in, ADNOC, which is the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. So the two of them are the shareholders of Borealis. Together with ADNOC, we have a very successful joint venture in the Middle East called Borouge, with a manufacturing base in Abu Dhabi. They have roughly 5 million tons of polyolefin capacity, serving primarily the Asian market. Here in the US, together with Total Energies, we have the Baystar joint venture, which I'll talk to a little bit later. Some of the key numbers when it comes to Borealis, we have activities in roughly 120 countries. The head office is located in Vienna, Austria, and we're today just below 7,000 employees. That number will shrink in the next month or so because we're divesting our fertilizer business. So we had a fairly sizable fertilizer business that we're divesting to Agrofert. I talked about the ownership structure as well as the joint ventures. In terms of size, we're the second largest polyolefin producer in Europe, number 8 worldwide. We had a very good financial result for Borealis in 2021, generating a net income of 1.4 billion euros. The result was even better in 2022, so obviously people are happy with that. Patents is a key topic for Borealis, so we are actually the #1 patent filing company in Austria, as well as this transformation into circularity is becoming more and more important. So we have 3 recycling operations in Europe today. I thought this slide on the strategy is also interesting to bring in. It tries to summarize our strategy, which we launched last year, onto one slide. I won't spend a lot of time at the bottom here, but basically the strong foundation is talking about continuous improvement at the base, making sure that you have your base of the company running well, both manufacturing, when it comes to people and culture, which is the new word for human resources, innovation, safety, and performance excellence. In terms of transformation, that reflects the transformation that the industry is going through. We're moving from a linear economy to a circular economy. And for us, a key element in that process is also value-added business, focusing together with our customers on innovation that create value for all parties. In terms of geographic expansion, as I said, Borealis is traditionally a very European-centric company. But we have growth ambitions, and the focus here is on expansion in both North America, the Middle East, as well as in Asia, leveraging Borouge for further growth in Asia. And as you see, at the core of the strategy, we have sustainability, which obviously is linked to reduction of CO2. So we want to become net zero CO2 by 2050, and also become by 2030 have 100% renewable electricity in our operations. So those are the key targets in our strategy. Talking a little bit about our major growth projects, if we start in the Middle East, in Borouge, last year we started up a new polypropylene plant, the PP plant, that added about 500,000 tons of PP capacity to Borouge. We have also launched a massive $6 billion project called Borouge 4 that will add roughly 1.5 million tons of PE capacity to the Borouge joint venture. In Europe, in Kallo, which is just outside of Antwerp in Belgium, we're building a new PDH plant. That's a €1 billion project, which will add roughly 750 kilotons of propylene capacity to Borealis. The Baystar joint venture I'll talk to on the next slide. As I already mentioned, it's a 50-50 joint venture with Total Energies. Last year we started up the 1 million ton ethane cracker located in Port Arthur inside of Total Energies refinery there. And we are very near to starting up the 625 kilotons Borstar polyethylene unit located in Pasadena. So that's the Borstar proprietary technology that we're bringing to North America for the first time. What is also important to mention here is that Baystar has an existing business, which is 400 kilotons of polyethylene production. So This joint venture was established back in 2018. It has had a running business at the same time as it executed the cracker and the Borstar polyethylene project. In addition to that, and it's not on this slide, it's maybe worth noting that Borealis has been in the US for longer than I've been in Houston, which is 4 years. We have compounding factories up in New Jersey and North Carolina, serving primarily the energy and automotive markets. So that's a very brief introduction to Borealis.
Thank you, Thomas. Nathan?
Sure. I'll be quick introducing Nexeo. So Nexeo, we're celebrating 50 years as a company in December this year, so we're very excited about our history. I'll walk you through that on the next slide, but we have 8,500 products distributed into more than 60 countries. We are equally distributed in the US and, or I should say North America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and also Asia. We have 700 global employees, 60 plus world-class global suppliers. We are headquartered here, just north of here in the Woodlands, and we have 8,800 customers in industry segments really across the board, with our top three: automotive, healthcare, packaging, and then compounding, wire and cable, electrical, etc. So we really do supply nearly every grade of plastic there is. If there's anything that's available in the market, we probably distribute it. Our history, so we started in 1973, 50 years ago, as I said, as General Polymers, as a niche distributor, really the first for the automotive industry. And from there, we became part of Ashland, we became Nexeo Solutions, opened offices in Europe, opened offices in China, and then as of 2019 became Nexeo Plastics after the chemicals division was merged, and then we were divested from Univar. So very excited about some of the acquisitions we made over the last several years. Nevicolor in Italy, Distropol from our ownership group, GPD in the UK, and again, we're excited to celebrate 50 years this year. So who we are, we're more than distribution. We really are an expanded supplier growth strategy in key markets and can help solve common pain points that our customers have. We want to be the easy button, both for our suppliers and our customers, and we are that link between our customers and suppliers. And how we win, logistics. So we're very proud of our own warehouses and our own private fleet of trucks. Okay, that is unique in the industry, and we're especially after the freeze and some of the events, the turbulent events of the last several years. That's been a big boost for us to reach our customers on time, reliably. Talked about the customer reach. We have technical support, really three areas. We have Inside Tech Connect that can help very quickly and easily with simple things. We have our technical service organization, and we have our application development engineering organization that also can help spec in, work with OEMs to pull products through. Financial flexibility is a focus as more and more, I think of the world in two ways. Customers want 150-day terms and suppliers want 30-day terms. There's probably a happy medium in between that distributors can help solve in some cases, and Nexeo certainly no different. We do have digital solutions, and I'll focus on this in some of the likely questions that come up. It is one of our focus areas. We've launched our My Nexeo end-to-end e-commerce hub as of June this year. So we had an e-commerce, really reorder portal that was, consistent across the industry. We've taken that a step forward and are really proud of what we've done. Not just integrating that, from an ordering perspective, but really end to end, and also helping our salespeople. So using artificial intelligence to connect when somebody puts something in the shopping cart but they don't buy, our sellers get an email in Salesforce.com or an alert, I should say, in Salesforce.com saying, hey, you should follow up, right? Big Brother is watching. Sustainability is clearly a huge focus area. We've ramped that up. I do think distribution serves a large part here because of how spread across different solutions and how early and niche many of these solutions are going to be. That's distribution's bread and butter. And then we also have dedicated teams. My new role is General Manager and Vice President of Commodities and Packaging. we built a team really to focus in that space, and that was successful. We've created now a division around that. So we have 2 divisions now, specialties and ETPs, really to hone in on the custom molding, healthcare, automotive type applications. Certainly specified olefins go into those markets as well. And then, the commodities, larger volume, and the packaging segments are now served by my division. And then we have corporate accounts that really help in both of these cases. So they're calling on OEMs, they're calling on brand owners, and leveraging all the regional salespeople to really be successful and with the custom molders, with the converters that are supplying those OEMs. So with that, I'll let Uday start.
Thank you, Nathan. We'll start with you. So obviously you're closer to the customer end of the equation here, and obviously
Sure.
when we look at data from in terms of drivers and all that, as I talked about in my presentation, lots of headwinds, right? So what are you hearing from customers?
Yeah, so I'll make no illusions. Q4 was bad for everybody, right? Across industries, really. The only resilient, the only market that was actually up was automotive, but that was just because it was coming up off of such terrible lows. So the last 2 quarters have gotten a little bit back to normal for automotive, but really all other segments had built way too much inventory. There was just way too much inventory through the chain. Nobody could get anything. So they placed orders with everybody, right? And all of a sudden supply came back, and they were, really throughout the chain was overstocked, and that inventory destocking has been ongoing really since I'd argue June of last year across pretty much every segment. We are nearing the end of that. I think as we've entered this year, January and February have seen an uptick. At the same time, we were seeing that inventory destocking. Customer demand, was not good due to inflation. People were buying, only what they needed, gas, food, et cetera, and less durable goods. I think the other thing we saw was on the olefin side specifically, massive price drops, right? So anybody who could waited, right? And because there was a lot of inventory in the chain, that certainly was the case. A lot of people pumped the brakes and waited for that bottoming. As we came into this calendar year, January, obviously saw price increases for both polymers, 3 cents for polyethylene and 11 cents for polypropylene. That's brought a few people back. The inventory destocking is starting to work its way through and starting to plateau and come down. And we really see the order loads and the order books for March and activity, everything with new projects really picking up in March and April. So certainly, not pre-COVID levels that we were enjoying for many years, but getting back to some sort of normal. We're starting to see that hopefully as we enter Q2.
Okay. And Thomas, your plant's now getting ready to come online and all of that. How do you see, customers and customer markets? Where do you see that?
No, so I think what we see is resilience, as you say, in the energy business, the automotive business. So the more value-added segments are holding up well. Consumer products are typically what you see falling off more quickly when the demand drops. I think for the new startup, of course, it's a challenging market to start up a new plant in. There's a lot of capacity online in the US, also in China, as we heard earlier today. So it's a very competitive market out there. But we are obviously confident that with our Borstar technology, we will succeed in creating a footprint here in North America for the products that we offer. So the focus for us is around the energy segment, the pipe market, and also the film market.
Okay. Do you see most of your plant being sold here in the US, or some of it will be exported?
There will definitely be exports as well taking place. So I expect that to be sort of let's say a phases that we go through, where probably the export volume will be higher at the beginning, and then we expect that we sell more domestically with time. So it will take some time to build up that domestic customer base.
Okay. So Nathan, I want to go to part 2 of the question that I asked you earlier. So I think you gave a great summary of what's happening with customer markets, and Thomas, I think, built up a little bit on top of that, saying that some of the value-added segments are holding up. But what are you seeing? Are there some segments that you think are holding up and others that are really crashing and burning? I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think as I said, automotive, we are excited about, not just because there's been a slight recovery, but it's been covered well, right? The transition to EVs, and it's two things. It's lightweighting, and there's no longer a need for high heat polymers, right? So some of these ETPs that have been preferred, especially under the hood, are no longer necessary, right? So obviously there will still be nylons and different EPDMs or TPVs in automotive for sure, right? But anywhere where you can place a polypropylene or a compounded polypropylene, you're going to see that take off, right? Both, again, for the lightweighting, but also because you no longer need those high heat polymers. So, and then there's the whole infrastructure around that, which will obviously be ETPs and olefins from the charging networks, et cetera, that really are going to be a huge benefit. So we definitely see automotive being a driver, regardless of the bounce back off the lows for polyolefins, polypropylene and specifically. The other one is healthcare. So healthcare is certainly something that's down off the highs of COVID, right? So, but it was the best ever, right, during COVID. Labware especially really took off, and we couldn't get enough supply to meet the demand that was there, especially after the freeze last year. So we're down off those highs, and it feels bad, and there is some readjustment because there was so much built up in the chain, and then all of a sudden, COVID's over, right? And everyone has all this, this stock in the chain. All that being said, this is a period in time. We still believe that healthcare is going to be a higher demand market and a growth market after COVID, right? With the focus, on that, and the importance of some of these testings protocols that were developed, whether it's COVID or something else in the future. So we do see that healthcare will be very resilient and continue to grow, even though right now it's a little off the highs.
Okay.
And then packaging has been a growth segment for us. So that's partly because of our initiative to grow in that area, but also we have seen, especially in the higher value packaging applications, food, medical type packaging, those have been very resilient. And food, people, if it's affected by inflation, and people will deselect a more expensive product for a cheaper product or a in-house brand, but at the same time they're going to buy food. They have to, right? So packaging will remain resilient, and we've seen that, except a little bit of these games with pricing and everything else that has happened over the last several quarters.
Any segments where it's been very tough, as there's been any segments that have collapsed, or?
Well, I'd say there's more and more supply coming online in industrial type film applications, and so where you don't have differentiated products, it's a bloodbath out there, right? Because there's so much supply coming online. So butene linear low, for instance. So the demand has held up, but the supply has just overwhelmed. We've also seen, especially in those low value segments, a move towards generic prime product versus prime branded, and more lower value applications have realized that there's enough supply out there in the market that they can get away with it, right? Whereas in the past they needed the rateability, the consistency. I would argue there's still issues there, but we see that trend as well, which is worrisome as more and more capacity comes online. So there haven't been any markets aside from, I would say, durables and tools. Some of those segments that are less olefins related. I mean, those have been the segments that have just been hit the hardest as discretionary purchases just died. And in some cases, it has been a benefit for lower cost options like polypropylene, where people are saying, hey, I used to spend $300 for a chainsaw, but now I'm only willing to spend $100 for a chainsaw. So how are those producers or those OEMs able to take cost out? One option is using lower cost polymers, such as polyolefins, where they can get away with it.
Yeah.